The one who comes in peace is always welcome. The one who comes to teach is always welcome. The one who comes to learn is especially always welcome. Positive and creation energy to all the students of the Organic African Paradigm teachings. Ta and Ma'at to all of you. This house here. Yeah. Okay, so there you have. We have a little bit of light. So today we're gonna continue our discussion. This is remember this is the attempt to help Organic African Paradigm YouTube channel to be able to cause this channel to spread the teachings to Africans out there on the internet. Um, One of the things I notice, when I'm scrolling on this app, I experience being fed different videos. I'm experienced like constantly being exposed to different videos, and I feel inundated. It's so overwhelming, constantly just showing you videos over and over. Like it overpowers you. It can, if you're weak-minded, you can get stuck watching something that's been recommended for you, or that's been created for you by the algorithm, and then you might not have the opportunity to search for other things that are important to you. So you no longer have the choice to search. Like you don't erase everything, go back and search for things that are important to you that you're searching for. So what I do is, to help me kind of maintain my mental health, I go into the history, I delete everything, and then I type in what I want. And then when I see the algorithm is start feeding me more video unnecessary, I go back in there, I delete everything, maintain my sanity against the algorithm. So it's just the way things are. When you're dealing with this algorithm, you're it's meant to self-sustain. It's a self-sustaining power. It's a self-sustaining technology. It doesn't have your time. It doesn't care about you or what you think or how you feel. It's just going to keep bombarding you with constantly with new videos. So we're going to continue our lessons on African spirituality and African science. And for those of you who are uh, interested in this topic, uh, I'm making it possible to teach. I'm telling you about it. So today we're going to I'm going to start out with Africa. Remember this book. We have this book right here. Do you remember this book? So we are going to go to, what page are we going to go to? Let me see here. We're going to go to page 147. So page 147, 147. Okay, this part of the mythology is in South Africa. This is a the Kosa people's mythology, and is going to talk about Mdali. Mdali is the supreme being of the Kosa people, the creator, the molder. Some say that God emerged from a cave in the east, a cave called Daliwi, Daliwi, meaning creator, from whence originated his name Mdali. Was the original name of the creator God, governor of all. As time went on, he became known by other names, Kamata or Chiso, um, Well, there you have it. The word chiso. So in Kemet, there is a word called chisu, right? And then when the Greeks got a hold of this word chisu, the word became Jesus. So as you can see, there's an evolution here. Chi tiso, and then chiso, and then Jesus. Now I kind of just give you an idea how words can move around. Anyway, let's continue. And the name Ndali has consequently been used less frequently. It is thought to be the father of the Kosa and Zulu, and he carried with him the laws of the people. God created the first human being by splitting a reed from which came a man and two women, who were the progenitors of the human race. The great being, after creating man, sent Nwabi, a chameleon, to him to tell him he would live forever. After Nwabi's departure, however, God uh, sent after him Ntolo, the quick running salamander, to tell man he must die. Ntolo, being swifter, outran Nwabi and, coming to man, delivered this message. Nwabi then came up and delivered his message. But man answered him, "Go, we have already accepted the message which Ntolo has brought us. And so it has that man will die. And so human beings die because of this." So think of this. The Africans tell a story. The story was designed for a woman or mother to tell her children. This story, however, for the initiated, for the discerning mind, for the those people who have been who the story is meant to reveal the origin of things, they are going to learn something different from the story. When they hear the story, there's going to be key things in the story that's going to cause them to know certain things of the story. For the people who are, the story is meant just to be transferred to generation so it doesn't die. They are going to hear the story of the chameleon and the salamander, and they are going to hear how death came into the world. However, for the people, the correct people, for example, we say um Ntolo, one, he says man is going to live forever, right? And then he says the other one, man is going to die. So this would, to the initiated, to the person who, of the discerning mind, the person would know that this is referring to the reincarnation system, the system of life and death, right? The system of life and death. Why is the chameleon chosen specifically for the process of life and death? Why is the chameleon used, and why is the salamander used? Why do the Africans specify that one is swifter and one is slower? Why are they constantly passing this message to their children? One is swifter and one is slower. So let's see here. Okay. Um, God created the first being by splitting a reed. So the story about the reed, this is very, very interesting. The story is found all across Africa. In Kemet, who is the Lord of the reeds? Who is the guardian of the reeds? Who is the god of the reeds? The deity of the reeds in Kemet is called Chiuti. Chiuti is the Lord of the reeds. Not just Chiuti is the Lord of the reed, but and Wa. The story about the people who came out of the reeds in Kemet, this story is told at the Edfu, the Edfu temple, or the school of Edfu. And there they teach about the people that came out of the reeds, right? And then at another school of thought, they teach about the people that came out of the caves. And then at another school of thought, they talk about the eastern caves, the mountain of the moon, etc., right? So all these stories are authentic stories connected to Africa's origin, Africa's Sankofa. However, what makes the story maybe not comprehensible to a lot of Africans, who they just ignore it, because they were told to you as a child, and then once you were told as a child, you never really did anything with it. That was the end of it. You know, what can you do with a talking chameleon and a talking salamander as an African? There isn't much you can do with it. You know, you're grown, you're a fully formed adult, and someone is telling you about a talking salamander in a talking how do you call it, chameleon. For you it makes no sense, but the chameleon always represents the spiral. The chameleon represents the spiral. If you notice in nature, the chameleon has a spiral tail. So because the chameleon has a spiral tail, the chameleon is divined as the let's see if I can give you some photos, some images to kind of put your mind to the perspective. So let's do it this way. Okay, I have something for you. Let's see if I can put this on your screen. All right. Okay, you should be able to see this, right? Should be able to see this. So what do we, let's go back here. And it says, the great being after creating man sent Nwabi, the chameleon, for life, symbolize eternal life, right? What is the chameleon known for in Africa? The chameleon is known for what? Let's see if I can find a picture of the chameleon. All right. I was so sure that I had a picture of a chameleon in this lecture itself. I guess I don't have the chameleon. Well, I don't have the chameleon this lecture. So let's do it this way. Um, let's pull up a different lecture. Hmm. All right, good. I have it. Oh, there we have it right here. All right, you see the tail? You see the tail of the chameleon? And he sends the chameleon to the people, the African people. And the chameleon comes with the message of eternity. So in African science or African spirituality and symbolism, the tail of the chameleon, which is always spiral, the chameleons always carry their tail in spiral. So the spiral is the force which the African used to represent eternal life. So the spiral symbolize eternal life, it symbolize time, is forever time, time that is etc. So it's both the is both representative life and death. So the spiral symbolized this unity of life and death. It symbolized the unity of life and death. So think of it that way. The chameleon, we look at an animal in nature, and then we want to describe a phenomena in the cosmos. We want to describe a phenomena in the cosmos. And so, well, the first thing that comes to mind for us is we say the chameleon fits the description of this phenomena in the cosmos. That's how African science works. That's how African spirituality works. Is based on or is built around this idea that every phenomena in the universe has a representative on planet Earth. Every phenomena in the cosmos has a representative on Earth. So these representatives are found in nature for the person who has the ability to look, for the discerning mind, for the capable mind, for the open-minded person, for the seeker. However, if you are not a seeker, if you're not in pursuit of that knowledge, the chameleon has no business with you. You're never going to know what it's for. You're never going to have any connection to the chameleon. You'll never know anything beyond that. And for this video, I used the photo of an ape. I used the photo of an ape, right? The monkey or the baboon. And the baboon represents a phenomenon in the universe, right? And who is the Lord of the baboon? Who is always seen as the Lord of the baboon? The Lord of the baboon is always seen as Chiuti. What is this? In what does Chiuti embody? The baboon and the hebenu bird, or the heb, what the people call the ibis. Why does Chiuti embody the two bird, the bird, which is the ibis, and then Chiuti embodies the baboon? Because there are two phenomena in the universe fundamentally where they are represented as these two animals, or these animals govern, they are representative of phenomena in the universe. And the sovereign known as Chiuti is the one who is going to be these animals are going to identify with that sovereign. To best understand this particular sovereign, Chiuti, you have to look at these two animals, and then you are going to comprehend them. The baboon is called mischievous, right? But the baboon, although it is mischievous, is highly discerning. It is a highly discerning animal, extremely discerning, right? The Africans believe that the baboon is extremely wise, although the baboon is, you know, uh, you know, it does a lot of foolishness, a lot of such and such, but the baboon possesses a level of wisdom, right? And that intertwines, that is balanced to his foolishness. And then the bird, the bird, the hebenu bird, or the heb bird. The heb bird, or what people call the ibis, it's the most graceful, bird, and it's most meditative. It stands on one leg. It's like a yoga bird. The ibis is like a yoga bird. It's a bird that practices yoga, literally. It stands on one leg and it places the other leg, etc. And then it's just meditative to stand there. It moves very gracefully. Other birds move very fast, very abruptly. The ibis moves very gracefully, right? The eagle, it stumps, right? And the falcon, the way the falcon walks, every other bird walks in a certain way. But the ibis, or the hebu bird, it walks very gracefully, very gracefully. So that grace is associated with Chiuti. Chiuti is a very graceful person. Chiuti is a very elegant person, eloquent person. Chiuti is a master of all of the forces in the universe that are affiliated with these two animals. Are We call that forces, we associate that force with Chiuti, right? So now let's continue here. I wanted to also talk about the African uh, symbols. Let me see if I can find this. What is this called? The seat of the throne. All right, I have a lecture here called the seat of the throne. All right, let's try this lecture and see. Read the words of the being, the supreme being Atum. I want to read the words of Atum. So let's read the words of Atum. When in Kemet we have deities, and I will always explain what a deity is. I will always try to explain what's the difference between gods and gods. What's the meaning of a deity? What is a deity? And then also, what is a sovereign? So a deity is a race of beings. So deities are a race of beings. Race of beings appointed by human beings. You know, human beings select them, and human beings embody or try to enact with these deities. So think of forces of the universe that human beings are observing or they've observed, and they decide, I want to interact with this force of the universe. It's the human being's choice. They can say, I don't want to interact with this force, or I want to interact with this force. When the human being decide they want to interact with this force, right? This force is considered a deity. It's part of a classification of beings called deity. Human beings can deify each other. They can, when a human being dies, the human beings can be appointed to a position in amongst these beings in the universe. The human being can be appointed. So, for example, anytime we have an ancestor and the ancestor lived a life where the ancestors became extremely, like extremely valuable to the civilization, that ancestors can be appointed as a deity. And a deity now, that ancestor will govern, will be a member of the forces that are governed by, that govern a particular aspect of nature. So the goddess Isis or Ashat or Aset, also known as Usat, is the of leadership, the seat of power. Fundamentally deals with leadership. Or everything, her whole point or whole existence of power, how leadership is governed, how things are done, how people deal with, etc. Then we have Sopdet or Septet. Sep means time, and then tet means the hand, right? Or the hand or the stabilizer. So the one who established time. That would be Sepet. Sepet is the sovereigness who established time. That's her role. Her role with time. So how did they? What does this mean to the uninitiated? Right? It would not make a lot of sense. But to someone who's discerning mind, it would tell you that the African used the star Sirius, or the one they call Suptet, to give time. That's how they tell time. They use that particular star, the star Sirius, as the fundamental pillar to tell time. Everything else revolves around this star, Sirius. This star Sirius is the establisher of time. Everything this star does, everything else revolves around this star. So that's how the Africans would understand when you tell them that the septet or subtet, the establisher of time, or the establisher, the stability of time. What stabilizes time? Where does time come from? Where does the calendar come from? Where do Africans grasp things like time? Okay, so this deity is really an agricultural deity. The reason she is established this way is due to the capacity for Africans to study their agricultural system. Africans were an agricultural society. An agricultural society, their most instrumental thing is the rain. They are very obsessed with rain. Any agricultural civilization, the most important thing to them is rainfall. So this star has the ability to trigger the forces or the seasons of rain. It lets people know that this is what you're going to get in way of rainfall. So that is why the Africans use this star to determine time. Now we have the white crown, the crown of light, the ash crown. Okay, this crown is made from the bones of our ancestors. This crown, two things were made from this, or the bones of our ancestor, the primordial being, the first being. Two things were made from the bones of this being. The two things that were made were a crown. So the Africans wore their ancestors on their head, their mother and father. So the crown symbolized our mother and our father. That's what this crown means, our mother and our father, our ancestors. So ancestors are fundamentally associated with this crown. They are the people who brought us into existence. That's why this white crown or this ash crown or the bone crown is regarded as the crown of light. So it's called, the word is Hachi, right? Or the is Mahachi, and it is means to become bright or to illuminate, illumination, becoming bright. The people who wear this crown becomes bright. They are very illuminated. They for one person when to wear this crown, they're transforming. That person has become illuminated. They have become bright. You know, they are to shine. They're, you know, everything that has to do with shining, illuminating, to become bright. It has to do with light. So the African concept of light itself is has to do with this Hechi. Hechi or Mahachi. Mahachi refers to the great light of our forebearers, our ancestors, to become bright, to become light of our ancestors. And this mace is a staff that embodies this light of our ancestors. So it is also associated with the divine being known as this, you know, the supreme being. Now, the goddess Isis, the one Isis, she is associated with royalty. You know, the goddess Isis is associated with royalty, majesty, anything that has to do with majesty or august, you know, majesty. She has the ability to do with sight, to perceive, perception. She has the ability to do with the pool of water, the flow of water, or the rhythm of water, the stream of water. So arteries, movement, etc., chakras, etc. She's associated with that. She's associated with movement of time. She's associated with destruction. She's associated with, she's incapable of corruption, right? She is associated with that which is incapable of corruption, Ma'at. She's associated with Ma'at. If you see the goddess Isis, oftentimes she has the wings of Ma'at, right? Because she's incapable of being corrupted. She's immaculate. So she's always called immaculate. She's always called the perfect being. And then she's also called the seat of power or the seat of the throne. So she represents the path towards leadership. Those who seek power, those who are going to seek power, those who travel or hasten towards the path of leadership, those who walk towards the throne. That is what Horus embodies. Horus embodies the leader, the free man, the perfect man, Muntu. And Muntu's goal, the perfect man or the upright man, his expedient towards the throne, the seat of power, the path of strength, so for the Africans to travel towards the path. So within also in this symbolism or symbology of the Africans, there is the primordial one called Atum. And I told you in the previous lesson that when the universe was established, Atum was alone in the universe. And Atum narrates how his loneliness caused him to establish what came to be, what came to follow. Atum narrates it, right? And he will tell you the story himself. He said, I emerged from the primordial waters of Nun. I emerged from Nun. Nun is the omniscient force, the fluid darkness itself. Nun is the fluid darkness, the omniscient being, omniscient creator. That's what Nun is. So Atum, he says, I emerged from the primordial waters of Nun. I came out of the universe, the vastness. Then he says, I am, Nem means eternity. I am eternity. I am eternity. That's what he calls himself. I am the willpower of eternity. I am the will of eternity. As the will of immortality in eternity, everything. Then he says, I provide each being with their their spirit. I gave everybody their spirit. I gave everybody their consciousness, their power. I gave everybody their being, life. And he says, I bind the forces of masculine and feminine together. I join the masculine and feminine together to create my strength, to become, to create his strength. He joined the masculine and feminine together to become strong. There are many thousand the spiraling ring. So he is time. So he established he's sleeping on time. So as you can see, the serpent represents time. The serpent represents time, and the beetle represents the creator, right? And Atum represents the omniscient, right? This eternity, this eternal being laying there and sleeping on time. And the Hindus have this very same story in their mythology. And the Hindus will tell you, say, in the beginning, Vishnu was laying on the serpent called Shisha, and the serpent Shisha was there was also Lakshmi laying next to Vishnu, and with Lakshmi there with Vishnu. Also, there was also the lotus there with Vishnu. But in Africa, we told this story. We told this story. We say Atum emerged out of the Nun, and he laid on the bed of serpent, the great serpent Neb Kau, the eternal protector of the universe, the vital force, the giver of all vitality. He laid on the breath. And like the breath and the neck that it represents, he laid on this force. And then it goes on, right? This beetle now represents what? The beetle represents the creator, right? It represents the creator, like itself, the physical manifestation of the creator, the creation, the force that caused the creation. So the beetle symbolize the creator, the creation, creative powers. So that is always seated above. That's why the beetle is always held at such a high. So the chameleon, its tail represents the spiral. The serpent represents, eternity. And then now we have the beetle represents the creation. And ancestors wear represents the bones of our mother. In ancient Africa was not something people play with. People took leadership as leadership was very important, and leadership was not treated as something one trifles with. So let me go and read what Atum said. I want to just read what it says. Okay. So Amunri, the government was established through the power of Sekhem. So the universe itself was organized through the power of Sekhem. There is a force in African system called Sekhem. Sekhem is where the force that established the universe, the governance of the universe, is the sovereignty. So the deities are called sovereigns because of the power of Sekhem. So that's why we call the deities sovereigns. We don't just call them gods, because if you call them gods, it doesn't acknowledge the fact that they possess the power of Sekhem. When you call them sovereigns, then it acknowledges the fact that they possess the power of Sekhem. So that is important for you to know as an African. The deities are called, they're not gods, they're sovereigns, Sekhem. Okay? And it was through the power of Sekhem that everything was established. So he continues, from within the basket of one's own strength, knowledge of one's own power, from within the heart of Re. So knowledge of self. In order for he Atum or he Ra to bring forth the universe, he had to know himself. He had to discover who he is. So the question, even the creator, Ra or Atum, had to ask, who am I? Right? When Nun created Atum, or brought Atum out of the Nun, and he emerged out of the Nun, he still had to deal with the question of, who am I? What am I? What is, the divine one, the supreme being, was still, he had to ask himself, who am I? Right? Atum had to ask himself, who am I? And so that is why we seek knowledge of self. We seek knowledge of self always, because even the divine sought knowledge of self. Even Atum declared to seek understanding of himself. Kepri was the one who sought knowledge of self. Who am I? Right? So from within the basket of one's own strength, knowledge of one's own power, from within the heart of Re, from within your heart. So spoken by Reeds, the words of Re. I found power, Sekhem, within my heart. So he said, he makes the declaration in the beginning of the time, the primordial time. I found power, Sekhem, within my heart. So who is the heart of Re? The heart of Re is called Ptah. Ptah represents the heart of Re. Ptah represents the divine craftsman. So how do we humans create? How do we make beauty? How do we establish all the sequences of how do we make things? All things come from our heart. And Ptah is the Lord of the heart, right? Ptah governs the heart, the human heart. Ptah is the Lord of the heart. Ptah is our creator. So he said, I found power within my heart. Okay, I found power is there, and Ptah emerges out of the heart of Atum. So Ptah is Atum's heart. The heart out of Atum emerged out of his chest, and in this heart was Ptah. And Ptah now and began with Sek, the basket of knowledge of one's own strength, the basket of knowledge of one's own power, and strength and power that belong to the self. And then he discovered the power that belonged to the self. That is why Ptah is important. So Ptah is the source of creation itself. Ptah is the heart that creates. Ptah is anything that is going to be created in this cosmos is going to flow from the heart of Ptah. There's nothing that will not be created, emerge out of the heart of Ptah. And that heart is Ptah is the heart of Atum. So if Ptah were to be put back into the chest of Atum, then Atum and Ptah would become one again, right? And so the eye of Atum would then is Ra, right? So the eye of Atum would be Ra. So if the Ra were to be put back into Atum, then Ra would be Atum, the eye of Atum, So that's how the system works. The primary power the Africans talk about is the basket of wisdom, the basket of knowledge, and the basket of, the self. What does the basket symbolize? The basket symbolizes knowledge. Knowledge. of your own strength, knowledge of your own power, knowledge of your own yourself, what we call the self. So he said, I knew all the forms, Kepri, Wakepri, right? I knew all the forms. So once he Ptah emerged from his heart, he Ptah knew all the forms existed. He knew all the forms that were all the forms that will ever exist until the end of the universe. They're all in the heart of God. So there is no form in the universe that was not established in the. So he said, I know the forms, Hepri or Kepri, Wa Kepri, came out of one, manifested out of one when Re was alone. So essentially, when Re was alone, he knew all the forms. I thought, plan. So he said, I thought or I planned the cosmos within that silence. I planned the cosmos within the silence. When he was alone in the universe, he planned the cosmos. He decided how the creation would be. Okay, everything that the creation was going to be, I planned the cosmos within Seker, the silence of my heart. So Ptah meditated, and as Ptah meditated, the whole cosmos uh, was planned in the heart of Ptah, in the mind of Ptah, the consciousness of Ptah. And then I created other forms of existence and the forms of existence. Kepri. Now Kepri is speaking. I designed every being when I was one. I designed living beings of spirit. So now that is how the universe was then established. So all the eyes that exist, all the different creatures, you see the eye of the minx, the eye of the chameleon, everything was designed when Ptah emerged out of the heart of Atum. And so he always said that uh, after this year, the the beings that are called the sovereigns, they were given the power. So let's see here. What else is there? So I think this is about it. Nu becomes Sekhem. I found power, Sekhem, within my heart, which is Ptah. And I begin within, and he goes on to say, power, the active and inert, willpower and willingness, submission and surrender. Sekhem was imbued within Atum at the moment of self-creation, possessing the strength essence of water, the original and eternal form of reality, unmanifested that is present and conscious of the unmanifest, and then manifest itself into the reality of consciousness. What does that mean? First, it was unmanifest that was present. So there was an unmanifest Sekhem that was there. It was unmanifested. Then he became conscious of the unmanifested. He became aware of it. He became aware. When he asked the question, "Who or why am I here?" or "Who am I?" he became aware of the unmanifested that was existing around him, and then manifested itself into reality of consciousness. Then all of the beings manifested into the reality of consciousness. The leadership is represented as Atum's government, and I think that is what it is. Sekhem represents a power that is full, to be mighty. True essence is strength, power without hesitation or limits. So that is what Sekhem symbolizes. Sekhem is this enduring power that the Africans understood within the oldest time. Neb-Kau is the older divine omnipotent between wanting and executing. He continued, I am Re, I am Atum, I am the great supreme being who created himself. The great created himself, the supreme being. Atum intertwined Nehebkau, the arms that bring the Ka, and creator of the government, essentially the universe. Then he balanced the world between his serpent coils and established the rings and spirals. He put the planets, he established the different planets, and he spread the spiral to keep the planets in the celestial abode. I am the strong, watery essence of noon that flow. I have sprung from the waters of noon. I am a serpent, Nehebkau, of infinity coils. The spiral and rings. From speech, Nehebkau commands what is, give rise to what it is and what it is not. Speech of Atum. I over, curved over me. I was wrapped in Nehebkau covered me. I was wrapped in the rings of Nehebkau. I am the one who made a place for himself in the middle of the rings. So he made a place for himself in the middle of the Milky Way, essentially. So you have a galaxy, and then he made himself a place for himself. He made himself as the sun in the middle of this spiral. And once he was in the middle of this spiral, he began the creation. So let's stop here. Um, we will have other times to continue on this year. So, positive and creation energy to all of you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for paying attention. And then we will continue these stories. We'll just continue to develop the teachings on this channel, continue to put the channel here. Take a break from everything you see on YouTube, take a break from all of that other stuff, and come to this channel and watch and, do the, learn and develop your minds. Invite other people that to come and, take be a follower of this channel, and then learn from the things that I told. The African perspective of the science, the African perspective of science especially is what Africans do with nature, the baskets of wisdom from nature. That's science. Spirituality is how Africans interact with the universe, what they do with the universe, their relationship with it, like their ties, their bonds with the universe. That's spirituality. And then the gods embody the masculine principles, but the gods specifically are not called gods, they are called sovereigns. Sovereign because they possess Sekem. Sekem is the power that came out of the heart of Atum. So they are called sovereigns because each of them possess the power that comes from the heart of Atum. Atum, when he opened his heart, who emerged out of his heart? Ptah. Ptah emerged. And then Ptah became the creator of things. And when Ptah was, another being, another part of Atum emerged. And who emerged as the head of Atum? The head of Atum emerged was Kanum. Kanum emerged as the mind of Atum. And then, and who emerged in many, many forms, the deities, the divinities transformed, and they established what is. So let this be, goddesses. The story of the goddesses are just as powerful as the male deities. And next time I meet you all here, we will talk about the goddesses. The goddess Net, who created the sun and the moon from her eyes. When the goddess opened her eyes, there was light in the universe. So, how the Christians say, let there be light. God said, let there be light. In Kemet, they said that the goddess said she opened her eyes and there was light. So all the goddess did, she was sleeping, or her eyes were closed. And as soon as she opened her eyes, there was light, right? That's the power of the divinities. So these stories, all of them were encoded in esoteric words, and they were given to Africa, the African children, and the African children heard them, and they thought the chameleon is just an animal we find in nature. They thought the antelope is just an animal we find in nature, and that's how the Africans thought. But regardless of how they thought, these stories still possess the authenticity. So Tai and Ma'at to all of you, Anken Ubuntu to all of you, and Madi and Sia to all of you. Power Amiwi, Amhetep, Unini Neptira, Power Amiwi, Neketsaba Utenini Neptira, Power Amiwi, Kem Neketsa Utenini Neptira, Menkutet, Kemati, Sekem, and Sek Uten.